Career changes are the key to bridging the cyber skill shortage.
Recognising those careers and giving them value and understanding the journey rather than academic knowledge. We always sort of say you can teach, what you really need is workplace skills.
You find that basic practical knowledge helps as well? Welcome everybody to the Cyber Revolution podcast. Thanks for joining us yet again. I'm Adam Hewitt, the CEO of Cyber Revolution, and today I'm joined by Michael Harris. Michael is one of our placement partners. He is the Training and Education Manager at Williama. Michael, good to have you on the show. Thanks for coming in.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me along, Adam.
Not a problem. So the reason I wanted to get Michael in, obviously, as I said before, we partner with Williama. He is the head of the training and education there as well. Obviously aligns with what we do. We've placed our students within Williama, and there's no better person to come on to discuss their journey into cybersecurity and the future of cyber and Williama. So really looking forward to the chat. Before we get into that, I want to give our listeners of the podcast, our new listeners of the podcast, a bit of an overview of who this podcast is for and who Cyber Revolution are. So Cyber Revolution, we're Australia's only dedicated cybersecurity training and placement institute. We basically specialize in training and finding people their first entry-level role in cybersecurity. We've been doing this now, Michael, for a number of years, and you would attest to this. We've helped lots and lots of people get into the industry, but we still have lots and lots of people coming to us going, what is this thing called cybersecurity? How do I get into it? It is a bit of a mysterious industry. So the point of the podcast is to really just educate people, okay? So you're a great person to have on this show. We want to educate people as much as possible before they decide to get into the industry, as opposed to the traditional way of doing it when they finish their training and certifications, okay? So if that resonates with you, that's exactly who this podcast is for, okay? So Michael, let's get into it, shall we?
Fantastic.
I'm going to start where I like to with all of our guests, and that's from the very beginning, all right? So your journey into cybersecurity. If you wouldn't mind telling us how you ended up in cybersecurity and I guess what was so appealing to you to join the industry.
Well, I've had a long road to get here, Adam. It hasn't been quite the straight journey, and I think that resonates with people who are swapping industries or maybe changing those careers. So I finished school and I went to uni. I was a uni dropout. I didn't last 1 year in IT. So IT business, dual degree, and didn't make the first year. So very few people know that, but happy to share that with yourself and your listeners. So that one I keep a little quiet. Dropped out of IT and went into a trade, became a tradesman. So I'm an electrician by trade. Did my time as a tradesman, did 1 year as a fully qualified electrician, and then got into policing. And from policing was looking at a specialist unit that's IT related. And I was very excited to get into that unit and progress to there. Just before my secondment to that unit, I was given the opportunity to move overseas with my partner and again, changed careers for the third time and went into developing training content for an RTO here in Australia in the construction space. So had another jump of career at that point. It was a bit of a scary one. Lived overseas for a bit and came back to Australia. And then from there, went into training more full-time, became a full-stack programmer for a couple of years and started consulting. And when I was consulting, I sat next to a pen tester. And that's where my journey really started with cyber. So we would talk about all of the problems and hackable options for our communal workspace that we lived in. And we had an accidental man-in-the-middle attack. Someone plugged in a router, an unauthorized router, and it took over, and how we would, infiltrate the system and all those sorts of things. So we had those great conversations, and that's really what piqued my interest. He also introduced me to robotic process automation, which is where I studied and certified. So I have UiPath and Blue Prism certifications. From there, I was introduced to some of the great team at Williama after a couple of years and decided to have a go at the cyber industry and come on board with them. And I am on my learning journey. I've always learnt new skills and transitioned industries. So that's my journey to cyber. But it's been a kind of a long, weavy road.
What an interesting story. I said off before we hit record on this, I love listening to people's journey as how it is, how they get into cybersecurity. most of the time it's not just, the one step. I just decided to do it and out of the blue, and now I'm in a cyber role. It's so interesting hearing, I think with a couple of episodes, we had Gabriella on and she was hacked, which was her motivation of how she decided to upskill and get into cyber. So you've actually changed careers, with that about four times before you got into cyber? 4 or 5?
Five's my, yeah. So, and I get asked a lot, well, what does being an electrician have to do with cybersecurity or policing? And there's a lot of skills that actually transfer. There's a lot that you learn and develop and can take from each industry and build on the next. So for a lot of people, it sounds like this, just jumping from place to place. But to me, it all made sense. And the skills I got, I took to the next and kept building on and still do today.
I really love that. I think the old school mindset of you get a job out of school or university and then that's your career for the next 30 or 40 years. Like, I don't know anyone who's going to want to realistically do that. I mean, some people are out there, they're lucky enough to find the job in the industry that they love. But a lot of people have that fixed mindset of, nah, this is my industry. I'm just going to stay in it. What do you say to those people? Like, I guess, give them a bit of advice to have the courage to change careers.
Well, it definitely takes courage in what you know, and then courage to say, well, I don't know some things. And what I'd say is ask the right questions. And we come back to that a fair bit in Williama and with the professionals program and working with Cyber Revolution, asking the right questions. So not, why should I change careers? Well, why shouldn't I? What adventure can I go on? What opportunity awaits? Sometimes I didn't know what the opportunity was. It was just a problem that needed solving. Being a programmer, that was the company I was talking to couldn't find a programmer. And I said, well, I'll have a go.
Yeah.
And they said, we can't pay you much. It's going to be hard. And I thought, well, fine, I'll do it until you find someone else. One of the best experiences I ever had. I'll never be a full stack programmer again. I can tell you, they probably don't want me back, but what a great learning experience. And then when we talk about cyber, I understand a little bit about some of the DevOps stuff that goes on, or some of the elements that go into building software or websites and those sorts of things. And then the hacking components make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. You and myself, right? We're both not the technical side of cybersecurity. We're the education side, so which is important, which is why we're having these conversations around skills, learning, changing your careers and upskilling into new industries, which is important. Now, we touched on it briefly, but give the listeners a little bit more of an overview of, Williama and what Williama does.
So Williama is a ICT and cybersecurity company. So we work both in the public and private sector, based out of Canberra, and we're really about opportunity and empowerment. They're really two key things that we come back to a lot within our organisation. So we have a firm belief in giving people opportunity. We're an Indigenous-owned company and a veteran-owned company. So we understand those spheres and look to give people those opportunities. And then once they're with our team, how do we empower them and grow them within the organisation? So we work in a lot of different areas in cyber, as everyone be aware that it's not, cybersecurity gets cast into a bit of a sphere and it's, one industry, that there's lots of different roles and opportunity in there, a huge amount, to be honest. So
many different facets to cybersecurity, which we can touch on. I know it opens up to people once they get into an entry-level role. They can get, their feet under the desk, learn some basic skills, and then there's so many different pathways that they can go down. Maybe tell us a little bit more about you touched on it briefly, the early professionals program as well that William are doing, because that's where we really, I guess, connect in the partnership with Cyber Revolution. We do help some people who have an IT background that want to upskill in cybersecurity, and then also the majority of career changes. So it's very much entry-level cybersecurity roles. Tell us a little bit more about that program.
That program is an in-house program that we've developed, and the professionals program is about a pathway or a journey that our entry-level or new people to cyber go on to get into the right job roles and get the right training within the business unit. So what we're really looking at in the program is those students that come through Cyber Revolution have a great skill set. They understand the how-to-dos, and then we put them on this path that leads them through the business unit, supports them on their journey, and has someone from our training department stand with them the whole way. So by having that that clear pathway. And I touched on it a little bit before, is asking the right question. So the question we asked was, how can we bring the company, all of Williama, on that journey with our new juniors and our people coming through the program? And this is what the professional program is about. So continuing that support that people get with Cyber Revolution, continuing the focus on their careers. And our in-house joke is we can't find unicorns in the industry, so we're going to build them. We're going to make people into those roles and have those skills and talents that we so desperately need in cyber.
And we'll touch on that soon, the skills and talents and what you look for in a candidate. But I think that's why it works so well, the partnership. We place students within Williama, and obviously they don't have any IT experience or cybersecurity experience. It is a pure entry-level role. And so you can't really touch on their previous experience to go, yeah, I know this person's going to be a great fit and they're going to jump into the role and hit the ground running. You've got to be able to invest time into them to train them on the job. And then we obviously train them with the technical skills outside of that. On that point, what transferable skills or traits do you look for when you are hiring for an entry-level role if they're not going to have any previous experience in the industry?
My top thing I look for is curiosity. Is the candidate curious to learn new things, to branch out, and to research, basically? If they're given a problem, will they look into it and find a solution? Because in the IT space or in the cyber space, it's changing all the time. You may know something today, but you're not going to know the next threat that comes up tomorrow. So are they curious? Do they want to learn? And do they want to keep developing and be on this journey with Williama? And are they keen and invested? So just because someone has a master's degree or, certain levels of skills and training doesn't mean that they're curious and that they're going to grow and better themselves each week. So we're really looking for that curiosity and bringing a lot of the soft skills. I think they're underrated. Teamwork, leadership, a lot of things you get with maturity and experience in the workplace. And so I really build what I'm looking for from a candidate out of those two spheres. What ability do you have to work in a team and work together with other people? Do you have leadership qualities? And are you curious to find out what you need to know to get the job done?
I love that because, as you said before, you've changed careers before and you can now see the transferable skills from being an electrician to jumping into cybersecurity. We help tradies all the time, or it might be someone who's in the hospitality industry. If you're a tradie, how many problems do you come across each time? And the attention to detail do you have to fix those problems, which are obviously transferable straight away into the cybersecurity industry, which is great. Such a good mindset to have to hire on soft skills, hire on cultural fit, and then train them up as you go. Do you find then as well, if you give those people that shot and their first shot in cybersecurity, the staff retention, there's like a loyalty there?
Absolutely. And when we give them a detailed plan and a training plan essentially to follow, that we're invested in their growth, that we have a plan. And part of our professional program is to bring them into the conversation with their supervisor and have that open conversation where we see that you've got these skills and this interest. We think this would be a great role for you. We want to put this into place. The training plans also is a little bit different. We span business units, which can be a little bit scary for people, but we actually build into the training plans the transition between a managed service like a level 1 help desk to how does that then transition to our governance risk compliance team. You've got to come up through the ranks, but we have a pathway to do that. And that's important as well. So great retention when people are invested in.
That's so important. They have to cut at an entry-level role. They've got to come down the bottom. And the cool thing is with cyber, I always bang on about this, is the career progression. You can go from that entry level to a mid-level to an advanced level role reasonably quickly, right? As opposed to some other some other industries. Okay. And so we've all heard the statistics. I think the last time it was 51,000 professionals by 2026. Who knows where that number is actually at? Do you think career changes are the key to bridging the cyber skill shortage?
Definitely. I think it's part of a bigger puzzle, but people being interested in coming in from other industries, having other careers behind them, and for us recognizing those careers and giving them value and understanding the journey that they've been on a little bit more rather than the hard and fast, do you have this certification, yes or no? So that's really on us as parts of industry and training departments in industry about changing the focus from strictly skill sets to what does a person bring, what do they offer, and also the path to cyber industry, especially the entry level jobs, providing those clear pathways, and I think a renewed focus on skill sets rather than academic knowledge. We always sort of say you can teach the theory along the way as well. You don't need to have all the theory. What you really need is workplace skills. And if you have those entry level skills, you can do the entry level job. We can fill in the blanks about why, but you need to be able to be beneficial to the business. So whether you're a master's, or, graduated uni or come through Cyber Revolution, everyone comes to us at that entry level and goes on to that professional development program to build the skill set and knowledge. Yep.
And you find, looking back with our students or with anyone who's done those CompTIA certifications, they've got a mix of theoretical and practical skill set, because there's some practice labs. You have to actually answer practical-based questions to get those certifications. Do you find having that basic practical knowledge helps as well?
Absolutely. I don't even think it's optional. It's absolutely essential. Having the ability, I argue a little bit, we have that banter at Williama that even if you learn how to do something that's not necessarily in your role or sphere, having those skill sets is critically important. Knowing how to do things and make things, interrogate things in a live situation, really get those kinesthetic learning underway, and apply some of those techniques, absolutely critical. And can't stress that enough to people. It's what we look for when we're recruiting or when we're talking to people that we'd like to bring on board. What physical things have you done? What labs have you been a part of? Show me your skills, is really the question.
Great. It's good to know. It's why we get our students to jump into our live practice labs, learn this stuff in theory, and then practice it, because it's 70%, you retain information, at a 70% higher level once you know how to practically do something. Now, this next question may sound like a bit of a loaded question, but the reason I'm asking this to you is because the industry is not for everyone. For someone listening now, what would you say to them? Why should they consider a career into cybersecurity?
It's definitely a big industry, and there's lots of different roles. What we often talk about is actually a very specific area, or the perception is a specific area, which is sort of that pen testing, interrogation role. But there is a lot to cyber. There's a lot of different dynamics, a lot of different elements and roles in that field. And it is a field, I think, separate to ICT. So if you're thinking about it, there's probably a place for you in it. Whether you're interested in things, whether you're interested in people, whether you want to work with teams, there is so much going on in cyber, and there's so much opportunity, especially at this time. So cyber isn't going away. It's part of the world that we live in and will continue to grow, and is a great industry, I think, to be a part of, or to have experience in and understanding in. Those skills will never be lost, no matter what industry you move from. If you move into cyber and move out again, that skill set you're learning, 100% valuable on your journey.
That's a really good point. We say that often. A lot of people will be sitting on the fence and they're like, what if I get in the industry and I don't like it? Well, okay, well, you don't like it. You move on, just like you before, like we spoke about. You've given it a go. You tried to fix your problem that you've got. Worst case scenario, you get into the industry and you go, hey, after 2 or 3 years, this isn't something that I want to be doing for the next 10 to 15 years, which is fine. But then you've got, a skill set that's going to be pretty valuable to any business moving forward, and then also valuable to yourself and your family, right? If you can go home and secure your own network, you probably become the IT and cyber, person for your family and your friends, right? Okay, great. And so for someone else who is listening in, and they're like, yep, all right, this does sound like something that I want to do. Everything Michael's saying, ticking the boxes. What would be your top 3 tips for someone that is looking to get into cyber and jump into the industry?
My top 3 tips, definitely my top tip, be curious. Look into things, whether it's software, systems, be curious about them, unpack them, look into stuff, have a play around with networks and learn and keep that learning theme going, because it's a real big part of the industry. So definitely being curious. Ask the right questions. Think about the questions you're asking, whether it's a Cyber Revolution or myself in an interview. But the big question I think that people miss or ask is, how can you help me get along this path to my goal? Everyone's too short-sighted, or we hear a lot, the short-sighted. How do I get from A to B, and it's a longer journey than that. So how can you support me on this journey? And I think that's something you and I really resonate with, that this is a journey and that it's not simple A to B, and have the courage to take the plunge and to give it a go. I really encourage that. I've done it before. It is scary. I understand that. I've been on that edge and said, oh, geez, I don't know if I've made the right decision. It's never not open doors. I think cyber's got plenty of open doors. So have the courage to step outside of the comfort zone. And I think there's great reward in the opportunities available.
Love that, mate. I love that last point, right? Might have mentioned this to you previously, but I was a teacher by trade. I did 4 years at university, and I lasted about a year in the industry before I realized that it's not for me. My biggest fear would have been that, I've wasted, if I stayed in the industry 5-10 years, and once realizing that it was probably not the best fit for me. And we hear that a lot from people, right? Is just jump in, have the courage to take action, and make the change, because it's a really, really, really rewarding industry. Michael, unbelievable, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. You smashed this. You had this at the start. This is your first podcast. We're going to have you on a regular basis, I think.
Oh, thanks very much, Adam.
Because we've got some exciting things in the works. I'm not going to talk about them now. So we're definitely going to have you back on the show, because we've got some exciting plans in the works, Cyber Evolution and Williama, about what we want to do moving forward with the partnership. Yeah, I'm really excited for that. So maybe in a few months' time, we'll have you back on. What do you say?
Love to be back on. Thanks very much.
Brilliant, guys. For everyone listening, please like, comment, subscribe, let people know about the podcast. If you want to know a little bit more about the job placement program, how we train and place people into organizations like Williama, head to cyberevolution.com.au and someone from the team will be in touch. Thanks again.